If you guys watch the channel, you know we have a bunch of different North Shore videos. We do neighborhood tours, we've done high-lows, we've kind of walked around and showed you a lot of the different real estate and areas. Today, we are going to talk a little bit more about what exactly is the North Shore. Where is the North Shore? Where does it start? Where does it end? What am I doing if I live in the North Shore? Is this a good area for me? What kind of houses are available in each different section of the North Shore? All right, guys, it's Mahe with Core Team Hawaii. Today, I am hanging out at Farm to Barn Cafe and Juicery in Haleiwa. So that's where we're at now. If you head to the left of that, you're going into Waialua, Mokuleia. The furthest west point, so sort of the beginning to the west side on the North Shore, that is Kaena Point, Mokuleia side. So if you're looking at it on a map, the opposite side of that mountain range there is Waianae. So that's actually how far west you are. Just on the other side of that mountain range is Waianae. Not accessible by road, guys. So keep that in mind. If you're going to the west side, even though it's just across the mountain there, you can't drive around that point. So Mokuleia, beginning of North Shore, furthest point to the west. What kind of homes do we see in Mokuleia? Properties are beachfront. They're a little on the higher price end because they are oceanfront properties. Mostly single family homes there. Not a ton of real estate in that area because it's not a large piece of land there. It's not like a ton of people are going out there to Kaena Point, but there is Dillingham Airfield out there. There are polo fields out there. Dillingham Airfield being where people go to skydive, to jump out of airplanes. So if that's something that you're into, that's primarily where you're gonna be looking at. So if you're heading away from the west point of the North Shore, you keep heading more east, you are now in Waialua. That's where my family is from. That's where my dad still lives. Go back to our old North Shore video we did, the high-low. That's gonna show you that this area is probably the area you would be looking at if you're somebody who wants to get into the North Shore market, but isn't quite financially ready yet to be buying beachfront. Maybe you're not looking for a multi-million-dollar property. There are condos there. So the most affordable properties that you're gonna find on the North Shore, maybe it's your starter home, maybe you're looking for a long-term rental investment property. Condos are gonna be right there in that Waialua area. You'll also see single family homes, but you'll also see nice beachfront there as well on Crozier Drive. If you're on the ocean side of Crozier Drive, you'll see big beachfront properties. If you go on the Mauka side, meaning towards the mountain of Crozier, you'll see larger lots, more land to take care of if that's something that you want. A little bit lower price points because obviously the closer you are to the ocean, the higher the premiums are when it comes to views, when it comes to beach access, things like that. Departing Waialua and you continue further east, that puts you into the beginning of Haleiwa. Now, Haleiwa is a big zip code. Haleiwa is a big neighborhood. But when people say Haleiwa, they are thinking of Haleiwa Town, where Haleiwa Beach Road is. The food trucks that are in Haleiwa, where you have Surf and Sea, where you have Malama Market, where you have Ace Hardware, where you have, Long's Drugs. That's what people think when they're thinking of Haleiwa. They think of Haleiwa Beach. Since this is where my family is from, when we say we're going to Haleiwa, we don't mean like, Pupukea, which technically, if you're looking at real estate online, that's still considered Haleiwa. But Haleiwa, we're thinking the area right next to Haleiwa Beach, the area right next to Laie Beach Park. Directly across from Laie Beach Park, you have another bunch of single-family homes. You have single-family homes lining Haleiwa Beach Road here that accesses and drives all the way down into the town where all the shopping is. No matter where you live on the North Shore, if you're looking to come for some entertainment, if you want, more places to eat, if you want like a little bar, if you want to have some Mexican food at Cholo's, if you're looking for the cafes, something like this, Farm to Barn. If I'm not mistaken, they even do like yoga and stuff out here on this field where we're sitting right now. Haleiwa is kind of like the place that everybody would gather from the North Shore to do different things. If you're looking in this area, keep in mind that there is a river that flows down through here that goes into the ocean between the Haleiwa Harbor and Old Haleiwa Beach Park. Now, Honolulu Bridge, that rainbow bridge that we see in all the pictures of the North Shore, that area can flood. So do keep in mind and be wary of the real estate you're looking at. Check the flood zone, because depending on if it's a low-lying property, even if you're not beachfront, if you're low-lying and you're near a river, sometimes that puts you in a disadvantageous flood zone. So make sure you check in with a real estate professional that can help you figure out what flood zone you're in to make sure that if you're required to pay a higher flood premium, a higher flood insurance premium that you're aware of that beforehand. So after you're departing Haleiwa, if you continue to head east, technically still Haleiwa, but the next beach you're gonna hit is Laniakea, Turtle Beach, I think people call it. That's kind of where the bottleneck of traffic begins. So no matter where you are on the North Shore, depending on the time of year, or even if it's just a nice sunny day and it's not even the high peak season for surf here, be prepared for some traffic because there are lots of beautiful beaches. Everywhere you drive, there's a beautiful beach to stop off at. So keep in mind that there will be traffic. So if that's kind of something that bothers you, if you don't like a lot of transient traffic and people who are coming through the town who don't necessarily live here, who aren't residents, then North Shore may not be for you. The next point after Laniakea is Chun's Reef. After Chun's Reef is Waimea Bay right there. So that's a big kind of bottleneck area, Waimea Bay, because that is probably one of the most famous. You know, they have the Eddie Aikau surf meet is there, famous for big wave surfing, one of, if not the most sought after, you know, big wave surfing. So that beach and that parking lot's real small, guys. You'll see people parking very, very far away on the side of the road to walk down to Waimea Bay. So keep in mind over there, lots of traffic, lots of transient tourism. On the ocean side, we have a lot of homes that are kind of like taking advantage of that beautiful Waimea Bay view. They're perched up a little bit higher. They're built up a little bit higher. Very high price points on that side as well. So when we see that big white tower, we're rounding the area of Waimea Bay. That's how we know that we are headed towards Pupukea. Again, if you check out the high-low video on the North Shore, we spent some time up in Pupukea to kind of show you what some of the properties look like there. We had a client who was looking for a large parcel of land, a North Shore large parcel of land. And if that is what you're going for, a large parcel of land on the North Shore, Pupukea is probably what you're going to be looking at. Most of everything up there is about an acre. Most of them have really, really nice views because as you're driving up the hill, you're looking over the ocean. So you can see down Pupukea, you can see down towards Waimea. Beautiful, beautiful homes up there. A lot of really, really custom looking homes. We have seen properties up there when we were up there for our high-low, which was like $38 million. Average is probably around the 3 to 5 million, depending on what you're looking at. Lower than that do come up, not super frequently, but because of that real estate up there, that prime real estate, those beautiful views, those large acres of land, yes, you can be up in the 5, 10, 20, even $30 million. Are they all that expensive? No, of course not. But just so that you know the range of the type of real estate you're looking at up there, it can get pretty high. Pupukea would be kind of the place that you go to for your regular grocery shopping. Even my dad, who lives all the way in Waialua, he likes foodland, like a lot of locals do, and he goes all the way to Pupukea to get his grocery shopping done. So if you're not grocery shopping at the one shop in Haleiwa, which is Malama Market, and a little bit higher prices, right? Because it's kind of the only little thing in a very boutique little town here. Pupukea would be the foodland that you'd be going to. That'd be your grocery store if you're a North Shore resident, or if you live somewhere in that first half of North Shore, you might even consider heading out into Waialua, which is sort of the next town out if you're headed more towards the south side of the island. If you're getting back on Cam Highway, if you're headed back towards town, Waialua would be the next stop there, and there you could get all of the different conveniences you'd need for grocery shopping, dining, food and bev, that type of thing there. But let's continue on. So Pupukea, you have food trucks. You also have a little bit of a, like a basketball court. Is that a basketball court? Yeah. There's a basketball court down there. So if you just like want to have some place to shoot some hoops, play with your kids, there's that park down there as well. And then there's Sharks Cove. Depending on the time of the year, Sharks Cove is a really, really nice place to snorkel. This time of year, during the summer, first day of August, so beginning of August right now, the surf is pretty mellow on the North Shore, but do keep in mind, during the winter, you do not want to be snorkeling pretty much anywhere on the North Shore, but especially not Sharks Cove, because when those waves come up, they pump right over that reef, right over that rock right there, and you don't want to be caught there. So just keep in mind, if you are moving to Hawaii because you want to have beautiful access to beach, you will have that year-round on the North Shore. However, a large portion of the year, that surf is pretty dangerous, so you're going to want to keep in mind to check that surf report, to check the conditions of the ocean, and make sure that you know what you're getting into before you hop in that water. After Sharks Cove, you keep heading further east. Now we are at the Banzai area, the pipeline area. Now, This is where all those surf meets happen. Triple Crown, all of that stuff is held there. Sunset Beach right in that area too. So this little stretch here is where a lot of the professional surfers live. During the wintertime, that area is buzzing all the time. Pipeline, Backdoor, Sunset, those areas will all be super popular during the winter months, during the surf meet season. It's very cool to have those things super close to you, but it will be busy. It's super popular during the winter time, and it's primarily going to be those surf spots right there that are going to be packed and going to be the areas that you're going to have a hard time getting through when it's the surf meet time. Okay, so after you're at Pipeline, you continue to go east and you are now at Sunset. So Sunset's a beautiful beach, kind of hard to park. The side is kind of steep, so if you're going down, you're a bad driver like me and you don't want to reverse into traffic, check out the parking lot across the street. Actually, that parking lot across there, back in the day, before that was there was an old shack, a little single family house area where my dad used to live. So Sunset is actually my dad's favorite break on the North Shore. A regular there, knew that wave like the back of his hand. One of these days, I'll bring him on the channel to tell you a bunch of stories. Be careful. My dad, who was in the water his whole life, fishing, diving, surfing, almost lost his life once there. So please, 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 be very careful and take it very seriously when you're thinking about getting in the water here. Know your limits. Where you're gonna go to watch people surf, where you're gonna go to surf, where you're gonna go to see surf competitions. Sunset is kind of like the end of that. And then once we sort of hit where Velziland is, and I'm referencing like different surf breaks because that's kind of how we give directions here when we're driving on the North Shore. Other areas of the island, we may use landmarks, we may use different streets, we may use stores. Here on the North Shore, when we're talking about where we're going, we're referencing all these different surf breaks. So Sunset's kind of like the end of like classic North Shore where people go for that. Then we see Velziland, which is just starting to come around the point there. And that's where we start to see the houses change from like big, huge, like obviously beachfront that we're looking at, like these other homes, and we're like by Banzai, a lot of the actual like professional surfing companies, like a Billabong or a Volcom, like those types of companies, they actually have houses there where they will, you know, have their athletes stay during peak season, during the surf meets. That type of real estate we see there, we see a lot of like the very well-known professional surfers live right on that real estate, right up against the ocean there. The further we kind of go around the bend there, it starts to get a little more ag feeling, like not a lot of houses, but a lot of land. When I say ag, I don't necessarily mean like, you know, fields of corn, things like that. But when you're driving around, you'll start to see a lot more cattle, a lot bigger parcels with maybe horses and like more farm type lots there. We continue to drive around, we're by Kawela. And I think the next kind of point that people would be looking at is now Turtle Bay. So Turtle Bay is a large resort, which is beautiful. Shout out to my best friends who just got married at Turtle Bay. Beautiful. The remodel is fantastic. Check it out if you have time. But what's important to kind of talk about real estate wise of Turtle Bay is for investors, for somebody who is looking for a short-term rental. As we know, there are not as many places that it's short-term allowable anymore. Turtle Bay is one of those areas. So Turtle Bay Airbnbs are going to be still allowable there. You can still short-term rent. So if that's the type of investment property you're really looking into, that is a really good area for that. But keep in mind though, as far as the areas that do still have short-term allowable, Waikiki, Ala Moana, that area, which is mostly, you know, condotel type stuff, small little with kitchenettes, things like that, or Ko'olina, which are like condos. There's one in the resort area, so 30 days, the 30-day type rentals. And then Turtle Bay, right there, they have like the different villas, the different condos and that, the different townhouse type feelings there. It's like the highest price out of all the short-term rentals that we have. You can still do short-term rental, you can still do Airbnb, but it is a larger investment than maybe a Waikiki short-term rental condo. There is like a golf course there, so it's golf course and then ocean, and then it's right next to the Turtle Bay Resort as well. So we're leaving Turtle Bay, we're continuing to drive. If you keep going another 10 minutes or so, you're now in Kahuku. So Kahuku is known for shrimp trucks, sweet corn, like every different type of shrimp truck you could possibly imagine. Let me know who your favorite is. I'm still gonna rep Giovanni's all the way. Really, really tight-knit families down there. It's more of a country feel. Kahuku High School is a big high school here for sports, especially football. We have a lot of D1 athletes that come out of that school. Some people actually try to get district exemption so that their kids can play football at Kahuku. That's how big and popular that program is. I think probably on the whole island, I would say I mean, leave a comment if you disagree, but I think that probably Kahuku has the most school spirit and personal pride when it comes to how much they rep their school. Shout out to Kahuku. I'm not a Kahuku grad. My cousins are. Pili, if you're watching this. Yeah, so if you're on the North Shore, you're either kind of going to Kahuku or Waialua High School. My dad is a Bulldog. He's from Waialua. Some of our other family went to Kahuku. So those are kind of the two schools that you're looking at for the high school level if you're on the North Shore. Kahuku. And then we keep going and we're kind of at the last bit of it in Laie. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This is kind of where we ended our video that we shot. And we showed you guys Kaaawa. Very, very similar feel to that. You start to feel kind of the presence of the closeness of the mountain to the ocean there. Very, very quiet town. That's the home of Brigham Young University. That is where Polynesian Culture Center is. In Kahuku, kind of like right in the borderline of Kahuku and Laie is like a little medical center. I think it's Ko'olauloa Medical Center. I think that's what it's called. That's where my dad goes and has his doctor's appointments. But that's one thing to kind of keep in mind when you're out on this side. How far are we to the hospital? How far are we to doctor's appointments? There's one there kind of closer to Kahuku. Either that or you are going again into, you're headed more south. You're going into like Waialua. That's where the closest like emergency room is going to be that way. So there may be a couple of like, you know, little doctor's practices here and there. But as far as like an ER or a hospital or somewhere to go during an emergency situation, make sure that you're aware of what those drive times look like for you because there's nothing directly in that neighborhood. If you're interested in the North Shore, it can be anything from a little studio apartment, a little tiny 1-bedroom condo, all the way up to luxury real estate in the multi-million dollars. If that beach town kind of surf life is something that you were craving, there are all different types of real estate on the North Shore and it could definitely be an option for you. So give us a call, discuss what different areas could work for you. And if you're just interested in any real estate in Hawaii at all, give us a call. Not just North Shore, not just Oahu, any island. We look forward to hearing from you guys.
If you're active duty, actually anyone, but a lot of active duty people and veterans are going to watch this. If you want to speak to one of our past clients who's bought virtually, pick a letter. You know, pick J and I'll introduce you to Jane and Johnny or whatever. Like pick M and we'll introduce you to Megan, right? We'll introduce you to one of our 100 clients that have bought virtually. You can ask them how the experience was, if the home was what they thought, if it like smelled the way they thought it would smell, if the neighborhood was the way they thought it would be. If that's something you're considering, talk to some of our past clients. We'll make that introduction.
Yeah.
I would want that. Like I'm the type of guy that would ask that if it weren't offered.